you want to upload it. Now, one important thing to consider is that not every available generative AI multimodal model supports PDF documents directly. OpenAI models, they typically do. So GPT models, they support PDF documents directly. Other models, they probably only support images like PNGs, JPEGs, and so forth. So the first step, in case you're using an image-based model only, you have to convert the PDF documents, the individual pages, into individual images. Now, this conversion of PDF pages to images can also make sense if the model directly supports PDF documents. Think of, you have a scan of a document that is, some parts of the documents are lighter because the document is washed out or something, and the other ones are darker. So during that conversion from such a PDF document, you can apply certain transformations like increasing the contrast of a document page. So in some cases, even if the AI model supports PDF documents directly, it can make sense to have a transformation step beforehand, turning PDF pages into images, applying various transformations like changing the contrast, converting it to black and white instead of a color. And this will help the model to better identify the data you want to extract. Along with the images, you send a prompt, and we shortly take a look at that, how such a prompt can look like. And of course, what you want for data extraction, you don't want a natural language response, but instead you want a structured response, meaning a JSON document that you can deserialize and use in your application. So the prompt, I guess if you have joined any AI talk over the last years regarding, let's say, writing good prompts, I guess you already heard that. So writing a successful prompt is important, so that you can ensure that every iteration works the same way. So given the scope of the word, so what needs to be done? So what do you expect the model to do? And how should the result be returned? How should it be structured? What do you expect from the result? And potentially additional instructions that can be constraints, for example, I don't want that, or additional instructions like please do not include header or footer information from the document. So an example prompt could look like that, and we take a closer look when looking at the demo application. So we are given we're given an instruction to tell him, an objective to tell him, okay, extract the following data from the invoice images provided. Each image is representing one page of a single document. Now that sounds funny, but some models, when you upload a multi-page invoice, for example, with multiple images, if you do not specify it explicitly that all the images are a single invoice, then some models probably will stop at the first page and say, I have everything, here is the data, that's it. Okay. So the second instruction is, of course, we want JSON. And along, and that is something I recommend, instead of just giving a sample JSON, you should use a JSON schema, including descriptions within the schema, what that attribute you want to extract is used for. And a schema has some benefits. For example, you can also specify which attributes are mandatory, which are required, and you can use that in further instructions, like if any required attribute cannot be filled, return a JSON document with an attribute errors containing the names of the missing attributes. And this is how it could look like. Now, providing a JSON schema is just one option you have. There are other options as well. The second option, if you're using the OpenAI GPT models, OpenAI responds or OpenAI supports an additional model invocation property that is called response format. And that response format can contain a JSON schema. JSON schema is basically the way to go. So you don't have to add it directly to your prompt. You just add the JSON schema to that response format property, and the model handles everything on its own, which has a benefit we will see in a bit, compared to using the JSON schema definition directly in the prompt. And the third option you can take, probably a little bit more complicated, is to use the JSON schema as a tool definition when invoking a model. And the model, of course, must support tool configurations. And basically telling within the prompt that this tool you just defined with the appropriate JSON schema must run every time the model produces a response. But in the end, it doesn't matter. It's the three options you have, and JSON schema is the way to go to defining how the result should be returned. Okay, so tokens. And that is actually really, really important to know or to calculate upfront how much tokens probably are used when sending a request, and how much tokens are produced when getting a response. Because for both tokens, you pay in the end. So typically you pay by token, or at least per 1,000 tokens or 10,000 tokens, depending on the runtime you're using. But just to keep in mind, and these are just rough things, so the typical request prompt for data extraction is around 500 tokens. And for each image you're sending with the prompt, roughly around 1,500 tokens, roundabout. And the response, of course, it depends on the amount of data your response has, but for an invoice, it's around 400 tokens. And taken as an example, if you have a 10-page document, that results in 16,000 tokens for one prompt and response. Okay. So the token limit is also important. So how many tokens a model supports is typically defined in their documentation. So we have now models like Google Gemini, which supports basically a whole library injected as a prompt. But there are many smaller models like Microsoft Phi, for example, that only supports 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 tokens. So knowing the token limit of the model, and always think of the token model is request plus response. It's always the combination of request and response that defines the token limit. Okay, so in ODC, and that is special, if you're using an external logic connector for calling a model like the AWS Bedrock runtime, keep in mind that ODC has a external logic payload limit of 5.5 megabytes. And that is especially when using images, that is very, very important, because a letter page image with 150 dpi is around 600 kilobytes. So you can calculate ahead. And yeah, and so if you have 10 pages, probably you already hit the 5.5 megabyte limit. Okay, but that is specific to ODC. Okay. If someone has a question in between, I don't see the screen, so someone has to tell me, right? Okay. Yeah, pricing. Okay, when using a vision model for data extraction, what I hear often is we are using Claude 3.7, Claude 4. We are using GPT 4.1 something, so the big ones, because everyone thinks the bigger the model or the more mature the model, the better is the quality. But for data extraction, that is often not the case. So typically, the small models, the much smaller models, they they are, when it comes to data extraction, as capable as the big ones. So that is, it's actually there is actually no difference between using a much smaller model compared to one of the big models, but it depends on the type of document you want to process. Sometimes it makes sense to take a closer look at the model. For example, if the language you're using is supported by the model. Okay. So for a comparison, why this is important, just taking one very small model, that is the Amazon Nova Lite model, and the Claude 3.5 Haiku. It's not the biggest model of Claude, as you know, and but still the price difference between the both are big. So I don't know how many. These are 4 zeros, 6 for 1,000 tokens, and 3 zeros, 14 for 1,000 output tokens, compared to 3 zeros, 8 for 1,000 input token, and 2 zeros, 4 for 1,000 output token. So, and taking now, just going here, for 1,000 invoices, Amazon Nova Lite would cost you around 8 cents, whereas Claude 3.5 Haiku for 1,000 invoices cost you $4.40. Okay, that doesn't sound much, but thinking of that you're not only processing invoices, but basically everything that a large organization is receiving as documents, you probably end up in hundreds and thousands of document processings throughout the year, and then it definitely makes sense. Definitely, you will see it in your budget. The difference between using a smaller model and one of the bigger models. Okay. Yeah. Now let's walk over to the more interesting stuff. So I have a demo application. It's called Vision. I'm not really good at giving things a name. So I'm first showing off what it does. So this processes now an invoice image.
Stephen,
Yeah.
like the font of the screen is very low, so if we can zoom in, it will be easier for
Okay.
you to see.
Sorry.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry. So within this application, we have a prompt, and just look at this prompt. The downside of an ODC partner application is that it scales down to 0. and then you get that timeout errors. Okay, so we have one prompt here, and that prompt is configured to use the Amazon Nova Lite model. And as you see, we have here some prompt instructions, the objective. The objective tells the model that it gets some invoice images, and it should return data based on this is a standard in Germany. Yeah? So Zugpferd, that is an invoice data schema definition you can use. And it's defined with the following JSON schema. You see that here. This is the schema. We have the properties like invoice number, invoice date, the seller, the buyer, the line items of the invoice. So this is how it looks like. And of course, the required fields like description, quantity, unit price, total price, and so forth, and the total number. And also for errors, I'm providing a JSON schema how the error should look like with error code and error message. Some additional instructions. So analyze each provided image to extract relevant data, populate into a JSON structure, ensure all required fields are filled accurately. We need the required fields, of course. And this one we already had. All provided images belong to a single invoice. And this is, at least for now, and the models I tried, that's one of the most important instructions you have to add. Okay. And only return valid JSON documents. So without any additional information. So keep that in mind, this one, because this is where it gets interesting. Okay. So when I go back, I'm uploading an image. So Nova only supports images. And let me just show you how that looks like. So that is an invoice by our train provider. Okay. And let's upload that. We give it a name, train invoice. Select the prompt, upload. So what happens is it uploads it, and then it's processed in the background asynchronously, because as you can imagine, processing takes some time and we don't want to hit a timeout. And when it's finished, then this is the resulting JSON. We see the invoice number, the invoice date, the seller, the buyer, basically all. Maybe I should have invested a few more minutes in the demo application and give it a scroll bar. The line items, okay. And that basically within less than a second. So pretty fast, a pretty small model, very cheap in using it. And this is the result, okay. And how it's done, and you will see this is so easy. Okay, so how it's done. So after we did the upload, okay. So in that save and process upload, it just raises an event. So that's ODC specific. In O11, you would create a job record and use that as a trigger to fire off a PPT Lite process. So in ODC, it's basically you raise the event, and the event is defined to have an in-application event handler. That is that on upload. I think that is also very small, right?
Yeah, Stefan.
Okay, I just noticed that. Let me change things. Okay.
It is far better now.
Okay, so we're raising that event, and the event has an in-application event handler, this on upload image event handler, And this one gets first, the details like the document and so forth, and then invokes the image extraction. And this looks like the following. It gets the prompt that is stored in that prompt entity. And then this is what I'm using here, but of course you can use any other runtime provider you can think of. I'm using the Converse API from Amazon Bedrock here, giving it the model ID. And this is the one that is important. So we're adding now content items. This type of sending data to a model, you will find, I would say, in most of the other runtime providers. So this message content object that is used by OpenAI, it's used by Bedrock Converse API, Mistral is using it. So you can expect that the large one assume the same structure you can send to a model in the same way. So in this case, I'm sending in the image. And when getting this one, okay, and I just want to show you what's the challenge here. So I send off the prompt, and Converse now produces a result, okay, and let's debug that, how this looks like, because it's really interesting. And this one you will find, let's say, with nearly every model you will use, okay. Okay, let's set the star, select the prompt, select the image, and upload it. And here we go. Okay, so this is now Converse. That is what we're sending in. Then it does something. Okay, and now we have the response. And now when we look at the response, okay, so that's the text that is responded. And as you see, what does it do? It responds with this. So it responds basically in Markdown. And that is what you will find a lot, that no matter what you write, if you write only return JSON, only return it in this format or whatever, that at least the majority of models, they will return it in Markdown. And the reason is that at least the more mature models or the newer models, they have been trained on a lot of Markdown information, and they basically know, this is a JSON, and let's say the primary way others want to see JSON is embedded in a Markdown. So, and that is something you have to deal with. Typically, you get that. And that is why I have here this regex Markdown wrapper that just replaces everything with JSON and these three things with an empty string, producing the final JSON document, which then can be deserialized and used in your application. Okay, so pretty easy. Huh? So you send in everything, you send in your prompt, you send in one or more images, then you get the response, you remove all the artifacts of the text. Just a side note, which you do not have to do when you're using OpenAI with the response format and applying the JSON schema there. Then basically the OpenAI API takes care of that you only get the valid JSON without any additional artifacts. But if you don't do that, you have to handle it on your own. And that's pretty much the whole thing. So taking the job, processing it asynchronous via a light BPT process or with an in-application event handler, use any runtime, AI runtime you want to use, send in the prompt, send in the images, process the result, and that's the JSON. Super simple. Okay. Any questions on this part? I guess everyone wants to look at it on their own. Okay. Okay. So now that you know that there is a difference between machine learning models and multimodal models, sometimes it makes sense. So if you just want to classify a document, use machine learning models. Okay, they're cheaper. They're just cheaper. For example, Amazon Recognition or Google Vision. So those are meant for labeling information. Or you can also use a text-based machine learning model like Amazon Comprehend to classify a document or label a document by, and this time not sending the image to the model, but sending parts of the extracted text to the model. So this can make sense when you need to classify between different contract types, for example. So you have an employment contract, you have a purchase contract, a non-disclosure agreement and something. So if you want to classify these types of documents, typically natural language processing, meaning text-based labeling, is much more suited. Okay. Yeah, that is a general recommendation. Build something to store all your prompts. So this is basically what this means. Don't use static prompts somewhere. Allow people to modify a prompt. Of course, not everyone, but some people to modify a prompt within the user interface to try out new things, try out new versions or something. Okay. And for most, when using a JSON schema, use the description property within the JSON schema for additional instructions, like the VAT number is typically located at the bottom of the document. So this will help the model to better identify where a specific information is located, and in some cases offer some numbers. It's good to provide additional information on where a specific information is typically located. Okay. When defining a JSON schema, it is actually good to research if, for, let's say, the data you want to extract, if there is an official standard or de facto standard. Two reasons. The first reason is for you, it's quicker to get this JSON schema. The second reason is that most likely, if it is an official standard, parts of that standard was part of the training of the model. So, for example, if you ask Claude, for example, or Nova, can you give me a description of UBL invoices? It will know what it is because it is an official standard, and the documentation of that standard was part of the training process of the model. And so, so the model basically already has an understanding of what you want to extract. And that is why in my prompt, I was referring to Zugpferd, which is a standard here in Germany. So, and the model already knows Zugpferd, so it can better, or it basically already knows what you are referring to. And the JSON schema is just an additional information you're providing. Okay. Then, of course, use smaller models, cheaper. It's always cheaper. Okay. Because the large models, you will not get really better results just by using larger models. And larger models typically have a higher latency or processing time than the smaller models. So smaller models are typically the way to go for data extraction. And if you have a lot, and this applies only to the big runtimes like Bedrock and Azure AI Foundry, use batch inference. Instead of sending one invoice after another or one document. I'm always referring invoices, but in general, it's all document types, of course. So instead of sending a document one by one to a model, sometimes it's good to use the batch inference endpoints of the runtimes and send, let's say, 50 cases at once to the model and let it process, because this, at least on Bedrock, will save you another 50% on the costs. So instead of, let's say, 8 cents, you just pay 4 for 1,000 invoices. That's a lot. Okay. And what you can use, at least here is for ODC, but you will find basically the same components for O11 as well. Sometimes the naming is a little bit different. So if you're going for AWS, the AWS Bedrock runtime that is used in the demo application as well. AWS Comprehend for this natural language processing based classification of documents. Simple storage. I'm I'm some sort of a hardliner when it comes to binary data in OutSystems. So at least in customer projects, I don't save any binary data in the database, but instead always use an external storage. And primarily, if my customers agree, simple storage, of course. And liquid fluid, I recommend if you want to build dynamic prompts. So, for example, you have a prompt, but the JSON schema should be injected. And if you want to dynamically create a prompt, I recommend this liquid fluid component that allows you to use to create a template with placeholders and then use data to fill in the placeholders. And regarding image transformation or PDF transformation, you will find one component on the Forge PDF helper, which allows you to convert PDF pages into images, but without transformations. So it's only extracting the images. That's it. Okay. And that's pretty much everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. To all the participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop in chat or you can raise hand. We'll be happy to take up questions. Let's wait for a minute or two. If we don't have any questions, we can move to quizzes. I think somebody is asking, can we get recording of this session? Yeah, we are already recording it. We'll upload it in the OutSystems user group. Even one more question with Jivita.
Shivita, can you elaborate a little bit more what you mean? Data migration from O11. So what's your... So in general, if I interpret it right, it will not help you to migrate anything from O11 to ODC because that is it's primarily an application use case, but it will not help you in migrating data from OutSystems 11 entities to ODC entities. It is not, from my perspective, I would not uh, use an AI model to get data from an O11 instance, transform it by an agent or something, and then push it to ODC. So there are better tools, like ETL tools or something, and of course even OutSystems is providing a migration toolkit from O11 to ODC. Yeah.
Okay, so any more questions, guys? If not, we can move to quiz. So I think, Stefan, it's like safe to say we can move to quiz.
You sure? Sure.
Okay, awesome. I'll be sharing the screen, and everybody can join in with the help of a QR code that will be shown.
I'm myself excited what you came up with. Probably I cannot answer it on my own.
So, like you can scan this QR code from your cell phone, and it will take you to a Slido URL. There will be able to start the quiz. Maybe I can do something better, and we'll be able to see as well who is joining. So let me share my like whole screen. Yeah. So you can like still scan this QR code. Uh, and 3 people already joined, 4 joined, 5 it is, 6. So we are having around 10 questions and 20 seconds each, and most of the questions are from this session only. So if you have like listened to this session carefully, you'll be able to answer most of the questions. And if you have any questions like after this call as well, everybody might already be knowing Stephen, but you can reach out to Stephen on LinkedIn, and he has a very cool blog that is without systems, without dot systems. You can check out his work over there. And he has been MVP for like quite a long time. So everybody might already be aware of Stephen.
Yeah, actually, it's not that long. It's now my 3rd year being an MVP. Yeah?
I see.
There are others, like Kilian, who is, I don't know. I think he's part of the inventory. I don't know. I think he's part of the OutSystems inventory. Yeah?
Like we'll wait for 30 seconds more and then we'll start. If anybody is facing problem while scanning the QR code, feel free to drop a message. I'll try to zoom in further if that might help. Okay, so we'll just start. I'll just check if we have any questions. No, nobody is facing any problem. I'll start with the question. So, what are two primary methods of AI vision compared in the document? Two seconds more. Okay. So around 43% of people answered it right. Let's move to next question. A vision machine learning service is best suited for which of the following tasks? Pretty simple, huh? Let's see how many get it right. Okay, 44% of people got it right. Awesome. In the basic multimodal flow for data extraction, what is the first step? So there is marks for like answering it faster as well. So if two people are answering the correct question and anybody who answers fast will be considered winner. So it is
I just
convert.
want, I
Yeah.
just want to say that it was not me writing the questions. That was Anush. So
So it was help of Subbu. Yeah, Subbu just boarded the flight, so he like curated everything.
yeah, but because they're actually to some extent they are pretty mean. So
When creating prompt instructions for data extraction, it is not necessary to specify how the results should be returned, true or false.
that is so mean. Okay, guys, it is not necessary. Okay, it is not. This is so mean.
Oh, 80% of people got it right.
Very good. This is so mean. It reminds me of an OutSystem certification test.
Yeah, exactly. What is the approximate image encoding token usage per page mentioned in the document? Approximate. Stephen mentioned about it when talking about invoice. Oh, 60% of people answered correct. According to the document, what is the recommended maximum number of pages per 100K supported tokens window to be safe?
Okay, what's your side business? Are you running a certification center, or what do you?
Maybe I should start doing that now.
Yeah, probably you should. I mean,
That would be a good thing.
failure rate 100%, I would say.
Okay.
Now I know the guy who is able to create the most toughest certification tests on the planet.
Which of the following models is presented as having a lower interference cost per thousand input tokens? The light model. Oh, 80% of people answered Amazon Nova Lite. So, eighth question it is for large scale data extraction, the approach shown in the document is suitable. – 30% of people got it right. Ninth question, second last, it is.
Should I ever see a test where it says created by Anush, I will not take. I will not take it.
Maybe it should be co-created by Subbu.
I just
70%.
will not take it. Yeah, you need a pseudonym or something, you know. Now
PDF
everyone
helper, I
knows.
guess.
No?
So last question it is, guys. When extracting data from document like invoices, what is a recommended best practice regarding the JSON schema?
I just imagine when you hire new colleagues, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure they walk out of the hiring interview sweating. I'm pretty
Okay,
sure. Huh?
let's move to the.
Just joking, you know, just
Yeah,
joking.
I get it. I get it. Let's move to the results of the quiz. Let's see. Okay, awesome. So Tushar got it 10 out of 10. Awesome. Vishaka got it 7. Then Pankaj, Jita, maybe I'll just take a screenshot of it. I'll give a shout out to all the guys in the LinkedIn post. So thank you everyone for participating in it.
Pretty cool, Tusha. Really good.
Yeah, got everything right.